Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Flash of Trends. Before we dive into today's video, I kindly invite you to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up to show your support. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Philadelphia sparked by running back DeAndre Swift and wide receiver Devonta Smith, the Philadelphia Eagles came alive in the second half of their Thursday Night Football matchup against the Minnesota Vikings for a 34-28 win in Week 2. Neither team looked fully cohesive in the first half. The Eagles' defense came up with stops, and their offense pounded the ground with run plays to dominate overall time of possession, while the Vikings tallied 4 lost fumbles. Here's what to know about each team's performance. Philadelphia Eagles. The one constant in an otherwise volatile game between the Eagles and Minnesota Vikings was Philly's ground game. The Eagles rushed for more than 250 yards with a pair of Jalen Hurts touchdowns, offsetting a passing attack that was uneven for a second straight week. One of the more promising developments was the performance of DeAndre Swift, who rushed for a career-high 175 yards. It was the most rushing yards by an Eagle since LeSean McCoy in 2013, 217 rush yards. He carried the load with Kenneth Gainwell, ribs, sidelined. The most impressive sequence came in the first half when Philadelphia orchestrated a 16-play, 75-yard drive featuring 13 rushes. Hurts now has 28 career rushing touchdowns, tied with Cam Newton for the most through a QB's first 50 career games. The Eagles are 2-0, but it hasn't always looked pretty. That's particularly true of the passing game, which has sputtered for extended stretches. But the defense generated 3 takeaways, and when it mattered, Philadelphia was able to lean back on the run, a luxury that will come in handy moving forward. By a breakout performance, Devonta Smith erupted for 4 catches for 131 yards and a touchdown, including a pair of grabs of 50-plus yards. Corner Darius Slay predicted it won't be long until Smith is considered the best receiver in the league. While it's too early to put him in that conversation, all the signs suggest Smith is in store for a career year. Eye-popping stat. Including playoffs, Hurts has 10 rushing touchdowns on QB sneaks since the start of last season, 7 more than any other signal caller. The tush-push has been key. Hurts has now converted 34 of 36 sneaks when pushed by teammates in the last 2 seasons, including playoffs. No other QB has more than 10 push sneaks in that time. Pivotal play. With the Eagles nursing a 13-7 third-quarter lead, defensive end Josh Sweat came off the edge and knocked the ball loose from Kirk Cousins. Fletcher Cox recovered and rumbled to Minnesota's 7-yard line, setting up a Hurts TD plunge. That was the beginning of the end for Minnesota. Tim McManus. Next game, at Buccaneers, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, September 25th. Mitchell left. Getty Images. Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings didn't just lose to the Eagles. For the second time in as many games this season, they didn't give themselves a chance to win. The Vikings lost 3 fumbles in the first half alone, including one by receiver Justin Jefferson as he attempted to extend the ball into the end zone, and finished with 4 in the game. Combined with their sloppy performance in a Week 1 loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Vikings became the first NFL team since 2003 to lose 6 fumbles in the first 2 games of a season. Who knows how this game, or last week's game, would have played out had the Vikings managed to hold on to the ball. Even with the turnovers, they managed to turn a 27-7 deficit into a 1-score game midway on 2 different occasions in the fourth quarter. In either event, they're 0-2 with games looming against 2 of the NFL's top quarterbacks, Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes, along with one of its best overall teams, the San Francisco 49ers. The Vikings will have to find answers quickly before the season gets away from them. Troubling trend. The Vikings haven't had anything resembling a running game in either game this season. Frankly, they've hardly tried, and it's only fair to recall their decision to part ways with former starter Dalvin Cook in June and replace him with longtime backup Alexander Mattison. Mattison managed just 28 yards on 8 carries Thursday night, a week after gaining 34 yards on 11 carries. Mattison also accounted for one of the Vikings' fumbles Thursday night. The biggest hole in the game plan. On the other hand, the Vikings could not stop the Eagles' running game. Replacement starter Swift finished with 175 yards, and the Eagles rushed for 259 overall by taking advantage of an unusual and ultimately unsuccessful defensive alignment. The Vikings have adopted a 3-safety look as their base defense, and they spent much of the first 3 quarters using defensive fronts that included either 2, 1, or occasionally no defensive linemen. The Eagles had an extraordinary physical edge up front, and they took advantage of it. Pivotal play. Jefferson tied the NFL record for the fewest number of games needed, 52, to reach 5,000 career receiving yards. He also became the first NFL player since 2011 to have 150 or more receiving yards in each of his first 2 games of a season. But it was a play he was not able to make that seemed to turn the tide Thursday night. Stretching to reach the ball over the goal line after a 30-yard reception in the second quarter, Jefferson lost control. A replay review confirmed that the ball flew over the pylon, which resulted in a touchback and a turnover. A touchdown would have given the Vikings a 14-10 lead, but instead, the Eagles took over and got a 61-yard field goal from Jake Elliott on the final play of the half to take a 13-7 lead into the locker room. Philadelphia, a heated conversation between Eagles receiver A.J. Brown and quarterback Jalen Hurts on the sideline during Thursday's win against the Minnesota Vikings was about Brown wanting to be more involved in the offense, teammates said. "That's part of being a competitor, man. You always want to feel you're a part of the team, helping the team and things like that," said receiver Devonta Smith, who led the way with 4 catches for 131 yards and a touchdown in the 34-28 victory. "Anytime something like that is going on, it's not anything bad. He's not bashing anybody. He just wants to feel part of the team, wants to help us." Brown, who finished with 4 catches for 29 yards on 6 targets, left Lincoln Financial Field without speaking to reporters. Television cameras showed an animated exchange between Brown and Hurts at the start of the fourth quarter. Coach Nick Sirianni interjected and had a word with Brown as Hurts walked away. Hurts proceeded to target Brown 3 times on the following series, including on a 25-yard touchdown pass that was nullified by a penalty. "I think everybody wants to make plays and everybody wants to contribute," Hurts said. "I have no worry about him. He's a great player, a great teammate, a great friend, and will do anything and everything to win." Sirianni initially said he was unaware of what happened. When told cameras showed his involvement, he responded, "The conversations we have on the field are going to be private. And the conversations we have in our locker room are going to be private. Y'all don't need to know what was going on right there." The Eagles' passing game has struggled in the first 2 weeks. Hurts threw for 193 yards with a touchdown and an interception against Minnesota after managing 170 yards with a TD in the opening win against the New England Patriots. Center Jason Kelce said the Eagles' offense has been seeing some crazy things from opposing coordinators over the first 2 weeks in an attempt to create confusion and slow down the passing attack. He said he believes it will stay that way, predicting chaos for the rest of the season. Even with the new wrinkles from defensive coaches, the Eagles have fought their way to a 2-0 record. They leaned on the ground game Thursday and racked up 259 yards rushing. "You want guys talking," Kelce said of the Brown-Hurts interaction. "I think actually it's worse when guys aren't talking. The fact that they were having an exchange at all is a positive. We all have very high expectations. We know that we're really good and we know that we should be playing better than we are, so those discussions are going to happen and the frustration is going to happen." New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers said Thursday that surgery to repair a torn Achilles tendon in his left leg went great. The 39-year-old Rodgers suffered the season-ending injury on the 4th snap of his debut with his new team during the Jets' 22-16 overtime win over Buffalo in Week 1. The 4-time NFL MVP posted a photo and statement in an Instagram story the day after his surgery, which he said was performed by Dr. Neil L. Attrack, an orthopedic surgeon based in Los Angeles who has worked with numerous professional athletes during his career. "Surgery went great yesterday," the Jets quarterback said in his post. "Thank you for all the love and prayers and support. And thanks to the GOAT emoji, Dr. L. Attrack and his staff for starting me on the road to recovery." Rodgers, who faces several months of intensive rehab, made his first public comments about the injury in an Instagram post Wednesday. "I'm completely heartbroken and moving through all of the emotions, but deeply touched and humbled by the support and love," Rodgers wrote. "Please keep me in your thoughts and prayers as I begin the healing process today. The night is darkest before the dawn," he continued. "And I shall rise yet again." Rodgers' comments came shortly after Jets coach Robert Saleh and owner Woody Johnson both indicated they expect Rodgers to return in 2024. "I'd be shocked if this is the way he's going to go out," Saleh told reporters. Saleh said he hasn't discussed the future with Rodgers, adding that he is working through a whole lot of headspace things that he needs to deal with, and that will be the last thing I talk to him about. Before the injury, Rodgers had mentioned on numerous occasions that his goal was to play multiple years with the Jets. He is signed through 2025 and due to receive $38 million in guarantees in 2024. Zach Wilson is replacing Rodgers as the starting quarterback and will be under center for the Jets game Sunday against the Cowboys in Dallas.